the August 4th car incident press briefing. Just a few housekeeping items to begin. If everybody could silence your cell phones and pagers. If you have any sidebar conversations, please take them outside. For those videoing this press conference, please keep in mind that we do have a sign language interpreter here. Please keep all your shots open so that we can get our communications out to the deaf and hard of hearing. With that, I will turn it over to Chief Giladucci. Sheriff Pasenko.
Good morning, Tom Pasenko, Shasta County Sheriff, Director of Emergency Services for Region 3. This has been a very horrific and tough battle with this fire here, and I want to thank all of our fire operators for their efforts and all the law enforcement community that have assisted us. We've working closely with the fire crews in the Unified Command, and also we have stood up at an emergency operations centers to work closely with them. We have also reached out for law enforcement mutual aid, and I want to thank all the local agencies such as Reading Police Department, Anderson Police Department, and our other operators, but especially California Highway Patrol, who has brought officers from the Bay Area north to help us out with roadblocks and patrols in the evacuation areas and to help reduce crime over the last few days and weeks as we've battled this fire. We've also enlisted the assistance of the California National Guard, who was with us right away, and they brought in soldiers to assist us and in support both with the roadblocks and in other assistance as well. They've been a big help. We've main thing for law enforcement, we're responsible for evacuations, security, and road closures. We have made a number of arrests over the last couple of weeks as well with for looting, burglary, being in an evacuated area, and then also for other arrests that probably prevented theft crimes as well. Our District Attorney, Stephanie Bridget, is looking into these cases and will fully prosecute them as much as possibly she can, and then also she will be investigating fraud and price gouging if that occurs. We've displaced nearly 40,000 plus people. There's been about 1,300 plus homes that have been destroyed. But on the good part, we've repopulated many areas and got people back into their homes as quickly as possible. And this has been the largest and most destructive fire in Shasta County history, and I believe about the 6th in California. We declared a local emergency early on, and this was a very fast-moving fire, but due to the fast action with law enforcement and our fire folks, I know that lives were saved. I'd like to thank the California State Office of Emergency Services, who has been here from the beginning with us as well, and most importantly, our governor of the great state of California, who after the local emergency assisted us by declaring a governor's declaration for a state of emergency for Shasta County and some other counties in California. The governor's office also reached out and got some federal assistance early on, and will still be moving forward with future federal assistance. We've stood up a local assistance center to help our citizens as we move forward towards the firefighting stage and assisting in repopulation and recovery for our citizens. We're working very hard to open up the remaining areas. I'm glad to say that now the city of Reading has all the areas open and has been repopulated, and we're working in some of those more difficult areas of the county to get people back in. The key thing is safety, and I want to thank all of our citizens for their patience and understanding as we work through this very difficult time. I'm very, very proud of the men and women of our firefighting crews that have been out there battling this fire, sometimes up for many, many hours, 48 or more, and also our law enforcement partners that have been here with us, assisting in evacuations and security patrols to help our citizens and our communities. My heart and my prayers go out to those that have lost loved ones or have lost their homes. But we'll be working through this in the weeks, months, and years to come. That this fire has definitely, we have been forged by fire, coming together as a community. Now we're here for you now and in the future. At this time, I'd like to introduce my friend and colleague, Director Giladucci of the State Office of Emergency Services.
Thank you, Sheriff. Mark Giladucci, Director, Governor's Office of Emergency Services. Well, first of all, this has been a very challenging event, as we all know, and we're very grateful for those here locally who have taken the time to meet with us today and provide the most current update of the situation. I want you to know that our thoughts and prayers continue to be with all those who have suffered losses during this wildfire, and we're going to keep them in our thoughts and prayers, and they're the primary focus that we're going to focus on as we continue on with the recovery effort. Our number one priority moving forward is that we're going to continue to do everything we can to help this community respond and then recover and make sure that we can get Shasta County back up and fully operational again. To that end, our State Operations Center remains fully activated 24/7, as well as our regional operations centers. We really do have an all hands on deck with all state agencies engaged under the governor's direction on the state of emergency. We also continue to coordinate with our federal partners, the Federal Emergency Management and the Department of Homeland Security, and FEMA being here with us today, the Regional Administrator Bob Fenton, and we'll continue to work with our federal partners. And we continue throughout, not just here on the Carr Fire, but throughout the state, to dispatch thousands of firefighters, law enforcement, emergency management personnel from across California, and in actuality across the country. We've got a number of states from throughout the United States, both neighboring states and as far away as the East Coast, New Jersey and Maryland, who have sent assistance here to California. Actually 16 states in all. As well as 2 countries, Australia and New Zealand, who have dispatched firefighters. So we're going to continue to work through on that, and the sheriff mentioned that we have already worked with the county to open a local assistance center. Even as the fires continue to burn, we will be transitioning into the recovery effort, both helping those individuals who have lost their homes, as well as the county in their infrastructure rebuilding. And in fact, we've already been working with the county on beginning debris removal operations in the next steps for those folks removing hazardous materials and beginning that debris cleanup. Please know that OES will, and all the leaders you see behind me, will continue to be engaged through the long run, even after the fire is extinguished, to help the community recover. Again, our thoughts and prayers continue to be with everyone impacted by the wildfires. Now I'd like to turn it over to Director Ken Pemlock from CAL FIRE.
Thank you, Director Ghilarducci. Good morning. Yes, as been said here already, this has been a challenging and deadly fire season just in the month of July. 4 firefighters perished fighting the fires in California. Many civilians and members of the public have been put at risk, injured, and a number of fatalities. Fire season is really just beginning. What seems like we should be in the peak of fire season historically is really now the kind of conditions we're seeing really at the beginning. As Director Ghilarducci said, we have fire season right now going on across the entire western and southern United States. Over 28,000 firefighters are deployed nationally. Over 14,000 of those firefighters are committed right here in California. Since the beginning of this siege, probably 3 weeks ago or so, we have burned over 450,000 acres. Today, over 40,000 residents remain evacuated in various places in California. The concern, of course, today is the weather conditions that we're experiencing. Throughout the rest of today and this evening, we're looking at red flag fire weather warnings across much of Northern California, and that's for low humidities, strong onshore coastal winds. The Carr Fire here has been making significant efforts towards strengthening containment lines and shoring up portions of the fire that are most at risk. This morning, the fire is 141,825 acres and 41% contained. And every percentage of containment that goes up is hard fought by every firefighter out on the fire line. We continue to provide resources and support what's going on here on this fire, but literally just to the south in Mendocino and Lake County, a firefight goes on as we speak. The Mendocino complex, which is over 201,000 acres this morning, is comprised of the river fire near between Hopland and Lakeport, and the Ranch Fire, which started just east of Ukiah and has now burned clear across the top of Clear Lake and is continuing to burn to the east. So watching weather, we're moving resources. As Director Ghilarducci said, we have been moving resources all over California to deploy where the greatest threats are. But we are in this for the long haul. This will be the kind of conditions that we're going to be facing all summer. We're bringing resources in, as was said, from a number of different states, 2 countries. The firefighters from New Zealand and Australia will be arriving in Redding on Monday. They will be deploying out to fires in California. Our partners at the California National Guard continue to provide, as was said, a variety of resources and support, including firefighting hand crews and aviation assets, in addition to the law enforcement assets. We've also been working with our federal partners who are deploying a package of 10 hand crews of 20 persons each, comprised of soldiers from Joint Base Lewis McChord in Washington. Those soldiers will be moving into California sometime next week, be completing their training, and will be deployed to fire lines in California. So we continue to coordinate, we continue to work and look for resources nationally as we work through this. We, again, appreciate everything that everybody has done, not just firefighters, law enforcement, but all the community support, government and non-government, that's been occurring across this. Very much appreciated and very effective in providing community support. With that, I'd like to turn the podium over to Governor Brown.
Thank you, and a very warm, deep thank you to all the firefighters, local, state, federal, out of state, doing a terrific job in the face of a horrific fire. This is part of a trend, a new normal that we got to deal with, and we're dealing with it humanly, financially, and governmentally. I've asked the president to make a major declaration. He's done it in the past. I'm confident he'll do it again. So these kind of horrible situations bring people together, regardless of the lesser kind of ideologies and partisan considerations. So it's tragic that tragedy brings us closer together, but out of that, we learn to depend on each other and work together. If you look back to far into our past history, maybe 1,000 years ago, there was a drought that scientists estimate lasted 150 years. Don't know whether that's happening again, but we got to be ready. We got to re-examine the way we manage our forests, the way we build our houses, where we build them, how we build them, and how much we invest in our fire protection services. So we got a lot to do, right now to get over this momentary crisis. It's not just here in Redding, it's in other parts of the state. So we got a lot of work to do. We have a wonderful state. It's the 6th largest economy in the world, but we're vulnerable as much as any people are anywhere in the world. So let's act wisely and collaboratively and in the spirit of real generosity. That's what I see, and it's very impressive, and hopefully that spirit will build and we'll be able to rise to the occasion, which will continue to challenge us. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a few moments for any questions for any officials who are up here.
Good afternoon. Julia Yarbo actually is now Chico. This question is for the governor. We've recently seen that a large number of constituents in the North State feel the need to vote to separate our state. What can you say to those members today to help them understand that we're one state and we're all in this together?
Well, we're obviously one state, one country, and even going beyond that, we're one world. So we have to learn how to get together and work together, which you are demonstrating for everybody to see. So I understand people like to have a smaller governmental jurisdiction to be a part of, but it can't happen because of the way the federal government works, the way the Constitution works. So let's figure out ways to respect differences, and I must say things are very different in Redding than they are in Sacramento or Los Angeles or San Francisco. So somehow we have to find that common thread, even as we recognize the sharp differences that do divide us.
Governor Brown, Angela Hart with the Bee. Thank you for making the time today. As the days have gone by, we're hearing more and more reports of people saying that they feel they were not given enough time in terms of a public notification system, and in fact, we're actually notified by other residents and neighbors. What went wrong here? What's going wrong, and how can California make it better?
Well, you're assuming something went wrong. Life has its tragedies. We have fires, we have floods, we have mudslides, we have many other things. And here we just had a fire tornado. So things are going to happen, and we don't know everything. We're pretty smart, we're pretty rich, but relative to nature and its complexities, we're all students, and we have to learn. So people also have to rely on themselves. There's only so many government personnel, and I think we want to construct the best systems of alert that we can, and where it breaks down, we'll learn, we'll do better. But I think the local police and fire have done a hell of a job, and neighbors have a role, because we're not all just dependents on government. We're free American citizens, and we take action. And that's what people do, particularly in this part of California, and that's all to the good. So, yeah, where you can identify errors, we'll correct them. But whatever it is, it's going to be different. This fire was different than any other fire. And the fire next year or next month, that'll be different too. So we have to learn as we go. And I don't think it's good to focus on who screwed up. It's rather how we can collaboratively and cooperatively get the job done and help each other.
Just a quick follow-up. There's legislation.
What?
There's legislation right now being talked about opting out of a statewide alert system rather than opting in. What are your thoughts on that?
I'll be glad to look at it. I think we do need the best alert system we can get, and that's what I would help the legislature achieve. So opt in, opt out, I don't know that one, but who's the bill by?
McGuire.
McGuire. Well, where is McGuire? Is he supposed to be around here? Well, when McGuire shows up, we'll ask him.
Governor Brown, KRCR Channel 7. I have a quick question. What do you think of the White House's response to the car fire?
Well, we'll see. We have the request in. The president's been pretty good on helping us in disasters, so I'm hopeful. I think, as I said, the tragedies bring people together, and we rise to the occasion, and so our interests converge at a higher and deeper level. So that's what's happening here, and I'm confident the president will respond.
Governor Brown, Amber Sander with the Record Searchlight. Can you elaborate on your impression of what you saw this morning and what you take back from it, and what you think you can do as far as leadership is concerned?
Well, I take back from it that uncertainty is a part of life, and obviously when I see one house burned down, another house not, when I hear about the fire tornado that moves at 140 miles an hour, and they never saw that before, then I think to myself, what's the next one that will be new? So we have to really invest and train and prepare and find ways that we can all help each other through difficult times. And I'm the one, I know I don't like to scare people, but I always want to say we got tough times ahead, and no matter how comfortable you feel or how everything looks good, the part of wisdom is to be ready for what we don't know.
Can I just ask, when was the last time you were in Shasta County?
I was here at a sheriff's meeting not too long ago.
We'll take two more
Governor
questions.
Brown,
Two more.
Chairman of Redding Rancheria, Jack Hutter Jr. I know last year at our annual meeting.
By the way, I just want to say, this has a special place in my heart. I came to the Reading Searchlight on my honeymoon, which my wife is still irritated by. But the politician in me couldn't help.
I know that last year you passed a law saying that our tribal IDs and everything were acceptable for notaries
Yeah.
and everything. And when our tribal members present those to get back into our areas, they're not being accepted by the fire staff or anything. So if you could maybe get a message
Good.
to the state people that our tribal IDs are acceptable forms of identification. We should be treated as second-class citizens
Okay.
of our own country. And if the tribe can do anything to help, we know the prayers, the spirits out there, and so our tribe held a prayer thing the other day to talk to the wind spirits, fire spirits, and water spirits, to assist the people out there, because it's, you know, our country originally, we know those spirits, so we called out to them to assist and maybe, you know, consult with the tribe when cleaning up, because we were the stewards of the land and we know how to take care of it and prevent wildfires. We never had them in traditional times.
Well, there were a lot of wildfires, but there was only a few 100,000 people. So the last 100 years, we were embarked on an absolutely unprecedented experiment. Can 40 million people with 32 million vehicles running on fossil fuels find happiness? And that's an open question.
Last
Governor Brown,
question.
one more question. Joe Cerno with the LA Times. To go on the emergency alert question, there is no standardized system in California for language, for the way people are alerted, the timing of it. Do you see a need for that? And if so, what kind of shape do you see that taking?
Well, you know, that's something I'd be glad to look into. I mean, everything's standardized, centralized. You know, we are a very diverse state. We have over 400 cities, we have 58 counties, we have countless fire districts, and we have our 911 system that we're seeking to upgrade. So there's a lot of things we're doing, and we can always do more. And given the rising threats of the changing of the weather, the climate, we're going to have to do more. So I think your point is well taken, and we're on it. We got a few more weeks of legislation, and that might be a good time. We have some very important legislators here, and I'm sure they're listening, and we'll have several bills on my desk before they get out of town.
Thank you, everyone. We're going to get going. We'll do pull-asides with some of the other leaders, but Governor Brown has to go. We thank you for your time today.
Thank you.